This is really an honor. Um, I just look forward to hearing about all the amazing work that you have done. For the viewers who may not recognize you, could you let them know, what your name is and definitely where you're from?
My name is Tamra Davis, and I'm from Southern California. I'm a local Los Angelino. So and yeah, I grew up in Hollywood. I'm a Hollywood kid.
Wow, that's amazing. People all around the world, we have this perception of Hollywood in our mind, but to actually live there and grow up there, people dream about even visiting. That's really amazing. I wanted to ask you, now when did you develop this passion for, film and music and comedy? Is this something you've always wanted to do since you were little, or did you get into it later?
Well, when I was really close with my grandparents, and so they lived in Hollywood, and my grandma even went to high school in Hollywood. So they came out, and my grandfather was a comedy writer, and so he wrote jokes, and he wrote jokes for all like the big comedians at the time, like Milton Berle and Slappy White and Sammy Day. Like he wrote for all the comedians. And yeah, he had a company with Slappy White, like that was his partner. And also Red Fox he wrote for. He like would write for all of these guys. It was like one liners, so he was like the king of the one liners type of a thing. And so I grew up, and I at one point I lived with them in their basement, like that was like covered in 8x10s. And he'd have like, I would work for him, and he'd write a joke, and I'd have to put it on a 3x5 card and whatever topic it was on, and then I'd file it in a filing cabinet. So of course, like my friends and I, we would like whatever smoke pot and then go through the file and just do stand up comedy with his crazy one liners on these 3x5 cards. So I just kind of like loved comedy. I thought it was so funny. I grew up around comedians and jokes. And I don't know. But that wasn't really like, oh, I'm going to grow up and work on comedies or anything like that. It just kind of, I kind of just knew, I just thought things were funny. I grew up thinking about humor. Yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting. That's amazing. I mean, it's a blessing to have that in your family because we take for granted some things that our grandparents might tell us or our parents or things we see, and then to see it come full circle for you to, do it at the highest level, film some of the people's favorite, movies that make them laugh and, have good memories with their family. That's truly, truly amazing.
Yeah. So I definitely have a fondness for comedians and that world of the joke writer and the person who delivers the joke, and just that kind of relationship is really fun and interesting.
Yes, definitely, definitely. Now, how did you get into the filming?
Well, like I said, I grew up in Hollywood, and I was like a pretty young girl. And so I thought I was going to be an actress. I went to acting school and, whatever. I thought like I'm going to be an actress. And I started out with that idea, but then I realized that I just like, I didn't like it. I felt like there were so many girls that were so much like way better than me, so much more talented. And I somehow got to like um, see other directors direct. Like I had an opportunity. I went to Rome and I saw some of the masters direct, and I sat next to them. Or in America, I don't know. So somehow I figured I decided that I wanted to be a director, even though at that time there really weren't that many girl directors. So because this is like 67, this is like the late like 70s, early 80s. I mean, that's not like, oh, this is a job girls do. But I just was like, oh, I want to do that. Like, that looks like a lot of fun. I want to be a director. And yeah, like even I got on Francis Ford Coppola's set on when he was shooting One from the Heart. I was like a hustler. If there was somebody shooting a film, I tried to get on the set. I wanted to watch. I wanted to like see how movies got made. Um, so Francis Ford Coppola told me if I want to be a director that I should go to film school. And so then I went to LA City College. So there was a city college in Los Angeles. It was $50, tuition. So I didn't have money. I couldn't go to UCLA or USC. I didn't come from that kind of money. I was like a kind of a poor kid. Yeah, and so I just went to LA City College, and and that was great. It was totally the coolest experience because the people who went there, they weren't pretentious. They just wanted to make movies. They were regular people, and I got to make movies and show movies to just regular people, like who would normally be sitting in a movie theater. Instead, because I went to some of the classes, this is back in the day. This isn't now. Back in the day, if you went to a USC or UCLA class, it was just all white dudes that looked like Steven Spielberg or George. Like it was only that. There weren't any women. There was no, it was just that, like dudes in khakis. And so I was like, that's not my, I would antagonize everybody if I went there. I'd be, I don't know. So I guess I went to LA City College, and that was super fun. And then, yeah, and then I got out of college, and I thought like, okay, I'm going to make a movie. I had like a script. I had like a whole thing. I had a soundtrack. I had like a whole presentation, and one of the bands that I did like a music video for one of the bands with the school equipment. And so I went out with this package. Unfortunately, the like somebody read the script and was like, and immediately called the writer and then bought the rights to the script right out from underneath me. I didn't have the rights to it. It was my friend that I worked with. And so they called him up and they like offered him money, and he's, of course he's going to take it. So I was like, oh my God. So, and they kind of laughed at, like, they were like, what kind of a young girl, like young girls weren't making movies in those days. I mean, even now it's probably hard for a 29-year-old girl to get a movie, but then it was just like, that's not possible. It was like, kind of like, what is this little girl doing in here? And so then I got a call right kind of soon after. I was so depressed, but then I got a call from a record company, Capitol Records, and it turns out I made that video, and they called me into the office and they said, how did you do this video? And I thought I was going to get in trouble because I didn't get the permission or anything. And I was like, I shot it in Super 8, like just with my school equipment. It just was me on the stick, whatever. And at the time, videos didn't have that kind of gritty handhold feel. Like they all looked super slick, like whatever, they all look like White Snake, Billy Joel, like super expensive. And mine looked like, and all of a sudden they were like, here's a band. Can you make a video for and I became a music video director. Like just immediately got into doing MTV. So yeah, so I did almost 150 music videos. Yeah, I did a lot of music videos, and I loved it. It was so fun. It was the best thing you could do. I worked so much on so many different kinds of music and bands and everything. It was the best.
Wow, that's an amazing story. Now I have to ask you, have you written a book about your life or thought about doing a documentary?
I know. I did. I actually pitched a book recently, and I got a book deal. And so I wrote a book, but it's with one of those big Simon and Schuster. It takes forever. I can't even tell you when it's coming out because I finished it in November, and but I had not finished it. I handed it in. Now I'm waiting for notes and stuff. So, but I did because I want to encourage people to direct or pick up a camera or do it, because I think that making films is a really good way to tell stories. And if you're a writer, that's great. But I wasn't a writer. I saw things in visual, and I just felt like, I don't know, I just got really good with film. I don't know, picking up a camera. Nowadays, you could pick up a camera, you could film it. There's editing. It's easier nowadays. So back then it was like Super 8, little teeny things that you tape together. It was really hard, but I was determined. I thought, even though there weren't that many girls that had ever done it, it didn't mean that it couldn't be done. I was like, that doesn't mean that it should. Why can't I do it? Yeah. It almost inspired me more, the fact that it was like you can't do it. You know what I mean? I was like, what? That's going to make me try to prove you wrong. So.
Wow, that's truly empowering. I definitely look forward to checking that out. Now I wanted to ask you about a few music videos you did. You worked on a lot of classic hip hop videos. Now, were you like familiar with hip hop in the 70s, or did you kind of get a hold of it once you started doing the music videos? If you could speak, about that.
You know, because I was in LA, and one of my best friends was this guy named Matt Dyke, and he was like a DJ, and he had a club called Power Tools, and so it was kind of like it was like a hip hop club or a big club in LA back, like, this is maybe, I don't even know when this is, probably in the 80s, early 80s. And so and Matt was like an amazing DJ. He ended up, so he started a label, and first he ended up becoming the Dust Brothers, and they did Paul's Boutique with the Beastie Boys. But before that, he did Delicious Vinyl, and that's why I did those videos for him. I did the Tone Loc video and Young MC, and those ones were because Matt was like, I would go to his club, and yeah, and we were all good friends with this. I worked at an art gallery, and he worked at an art gallery. I went to film school, and he was like a DJ. So we were like the kids that worked in the art galleries, like those, and then, but we had our other thing. I was like, yeah, I'm going to film school. I want to be a filmmaker. And he's like, yeah, DJ. He wants to produce music. And this other kid, Jean Michele Basquiat, was a kid from New York. I don't know if you know him, but so he was like our really close friend. And I don't know, we just were, I was exposed at that early age to like hip hop music, culture, all that. Yeah. And so when Matt had to do a video for Tone Loc Wild Thing, um, I shot the video. I shot it with my Super 8 camera, my 16 millimeter and my Super 8 camera, like super, you can see it's very grainy. And it's just with girls from the club. Like, those are just our girlfriends from the nightclubs. And it's three takes, wide, medium, and close up. And then I chase that girl down from She's Gotta Have It on the street. So it's like, the video cost $400, and it was literally the most played video of that decade. Let's do the Wild Thing. But that's, I mean, like, you don't have, I feel like that's what I encourage is like, the song, of course, was great. It was all great, but it wasn't like, you needed to have everything and money to do it. You just had to have, like, I don't know, just do it. Had a good song and everything, but it was like the energy was there. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you mention the greatest songs in hip hop history, that's definitely in the top 10. Some people's favorite. He got the voice, and at the time it came out, like you say, definitely the 80s, but it's still, it's still a captivating song. Now you got a chance to work with you did the Bust a Move video too.
Yes, that was amazing. Yeah, I mean,
Another classic.
yeah, total classic. And the two of them as individuals couldn't have been more different. Like, that was kind of the joke, not the joke, but like, we didn't know that Loc was actually like a real, guy from the streets. Like, I just thought I thought he was so entertaining. Like, when we put the music on, and he stood there and he sang, none of us had ever seen that before. Like, and Matt and I, our jaws dropped. We were like, oh my God, look at this charisma, this guy. Like, that was take one, that wide shot that's used. That just came out of the box, that guy. And we didn't know Locs were the Compton. Like, I had no idea anything like that. We were just like, oh, he's Tone Loc. Like, we didn't know anything. So Tone Loc was like, he was really gangster and all that. Whereas Marvin, USC, super smart kid, like the opposite, like, and so just the two of them together was also funny because they had to write together. That's a story that I'd love to tell, is the Delicious Vinyl story, because it was started by these two white guys who started one of the best like hip hop labels of Los Angeles, of all early LA culture. Yeah, it was like, so that was I just was lucky to be there at the time and have a camera in my hand and be filming all this stuff. So yeah, like on that video, we knew we had to have lots of stuff going on with, Young MC. He sang really fast, but it was like Tone Loc he could just stand there, and he just had so much. But Marvin was like more, he didn't have that same kind of actor vibe thing. We were like, every girl's, lots of stuff happening. It was so fun. Both so talented and amazing. Like, really incredible, like, so talented. They were both geniuses. Yeah.
Yes,
Or are.
indeed. That's a major hip hop history. Um, Now I gotta ask you this. You mentioned that you was friends with Basquiat, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah.
How do you even meet him? Because of my understanding, he's from the East Coast. He's from New York.
Yeah. Well, that was he was doing his first LA show with this art dealer named Larry Gagosian, and Matt worked for Larry Gagosian's art gallery, and I worked down the street on La Cienega at Eureka Cantor Gallery. And so when Jean Michele was coming into town, he was only like 23 years old. Like he was a kid when he first came to town. So he was super young. He was doing his first show. He didn't know anybody in LA. So Larry told Matt and I was probably like 21 or 22. You know, we were like kids. They were like, I had to pick him up at the airport. He doesn't drive. He needs somebody to drive him around. And Matt had met him before. Like he knew they had some mutual friends. But yeah, I just knew him from the art world. And yeah, and then when I met him, we got along like whatever. We both smoked pot. He loved movies, and we hung out and had the best time ever. And he just loved to go out to clubs and loved music and dancing, and yeah, so we would all hang out. He was, yeah, and I was at the time, I worked in a gallery. I was with somebody I was with a painter, so he with the whole LA art scene. So yeah, it was like kind of showing him around. But I made
Wow.
a film about Basquiat. I made the documentary called The Radiant Child, Jean Michele Basquiat, The Radiant Child. And that has all my footage in there.
Yeah. Now I wanted to ask you about that documentary because that was my first introduction to him and his life and his work. Like I believe most people. And when I seen it, it just blew me away. And then to see where his name and his art is at now, how do you feel? That was maybe 15 years ago, but like you say, you met him in the 80s. What's your perspective on all of that, seeing it grow, his
Well, I
legacy?
think like, you know, when we were young and, whatever, he really thought he was going to be like the next Picasso. Like he totally thought he was going to be famous. And I loved that confidence, and his work was really good, but it was also like nothing nobody had ever seen before. Like it wasn't like, oh yeah, that looks like other things you see. And no, he was doing something very unique, but it looked like New York. It looked like the streets. It looked like our world. Whatever you could see where his influences were. So I feel like, and I was friends with him all the way to the very end. Like I saw him 2 weeks before he died. He wasn't keeping in touch with many of his friends because he really felt that a lot of his friends had betrayed him because they would sell his work or they tried to profit off their relationship with whatever the reasons were. He got very paranoid at the end when he was so famous. And he was doing drugs, which was just awful. And so, yeah, so what makes me sad is towards the end, he thought his career was over. He thought, I peaked, that was it. He did a show. He did a show with Andy Warhol that he thought was going to be like huge, and everybody criticized it and they put him down, and they were like, it didn't go over the way he thought. And then they criticized his last show, and he was an artist. He was sensitive. He really took that to heart, and it broke my heart that he really believed what people say. I mean, imagine nowadays with social media, but even then, it's like if with the critics are saying these things about you, as much as you believe they thought you were the next whatever Picasso, you're going to also believe that when they say you're whatever washed up. And so, yeah, when I saw him before he died, he thought it was like he didn't know what was next. Like thought it was over. And I was like, no, like I just was like, no, my God, you're da 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 da. I thought like if he stayed alive, would be a filmmaker. He had so many amazing, fun things, whatever. He was a genius. But that's the thing that I think is the heartbreaker is he was right. He really was the next Picasso. He really was the most famous American artist right now in history. He really is. His paintings sell the most money of anybody, and nobody believed him. And then he believed what nobody else believed at the very end, and just let drugs take him, so that he can numb that voice that told him he wasn't what he used to think that he was. So it just was heartbreaking. So I tried to put that emotion across in the film, that how devastating, because yeah, when you see his paintings and what a big impact. Yeah, who knows if he could have taken it though. He's an art, whatever artist. It's hard for you to just keep making work and then think that people could just criticize your work and stuff. It's just terrible. So it's hard.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. I appreciate you sharing that because his story is just so empowering. Like you say, if he was still around, you only can just imagine a fraction of the creative force that he would have influence on in hip hop and the art world and maybe music and
He
clothes.
brought hip hop to LA. Like he was the first person. It's like it's in a film on the Rhythm Lounge. He brought Ram LZ and Toxic when he came. He brought those two guys with him. Now that's insane. So those guys went to a club in LA, and it was filmed by Solomon. It was called at the Rhythm Lounge, and it was the first time we heard that music, and it was because Jean Michele got here. And like that to me is like, so that's important to our culture as people from LA or whatever. Like that's huge, because that from there, just it got bigger and whatever. It became West Coast, East Coast, but it had to get here somehow. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
definitely.
traced it to that moment. Yeah.
Right, it could have changed history. So I'm thankful for you sharing that. Now I wanted to ask you about a couple other people you worked with. You worked with so many iconic people. You got a chance to work with Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, Adam Sandler. Like to some people, these are the funniest people in the world. Out of billions of people, they would put these people at the top of their list. So how did you connect with Chris Rock, and what was that process like? Making that classic movie.
Um, on that, so as you can kind of see, yeah, I have this background in rap, and then I worked with NWA a bunch, like with Eazy E, and that was kind of like crazy that he would hire me to do work with him, and I made a short film with him. Yeah, so I had like a whole working relationship with Eazy E and NWA, and I did the DOC videos, Doc. It's funky enough, and yes, and all the NWA guys are in it. So Chris knew me from that, and Chris, I think, and I also knew this guy Nelson George because of the music business. And my husband is Mike D from the Beastie Boys. So I was like, so he's kind of well known in the rap world, whatever. So I have like some rap, I don't know, like that helped in it as well. That I have like some like whatever. And then so Chris hired me to do a video for him. I think it's called like Mama's Got a Big Head. So I did a music video with him. Then we did like a PSA together, and we just had so much fun working together that when it was time to do his CB4, I was the perfect choice because I had done all these music videos. I had I'd worked with Chris before. We had a great working relationship. And I had just made another feature. I'd made my first feature, Gun Crazy, with Drew Barrymore. And so I was like, okay, she knows how to make movies. So, and Universal, they really didn't want to spend a lot of money on it. It was kind of like this weird side deal where I think it cost under $10 million, even though Universal it was going to distribute it. But it was like, we could make it really low over here. So it was like kind of a side thing. And we just had and what was great about that is just less pressure, and you can just make a movie and have fun and just make whatever it is to make us laugh and have a great time. And that's really was Chris's humor, and we just had a motto of like, if there's a joke in this scene, let's go to the joke. If there's a joke under the table, we're going to end up under the table. Wherever the joke is, we're going to find the joke. And we just laughed the whole time. Like I just had the best time. Every morning he'd show up with his pancakes or whatever at breakfast, and it was on. It was just so fun. So that was great. Yeah. So I had a really good experience on CB4 doing that. And also my producers were Ron Howard and Brian Grazier, which are and Sean Daniels, like legendary Hollywood producers. And I really felt like they had my back. They really trusted the process. They were super cool, and so it was a great experience. And then yeah, from that I did Billy Madison, like that was kind of like on Billy Madison. I just worked with Universal, so they were happy with me, and they brought me out to meet Adam in New York as the studio's choice of director. And so I didn't know Adam, so I met him in a hotel room, and we got along great. And then it was like, but he decided to go with one of his friends, like because he works like with a very tight knit group of people, and they started shooting, but unfortunately it didn't work out. And then so they started shooting on a Monday. On Wednesday they stopped the movie. On Thursday I was on a plane to Toronto, and I was shooting the movie on Monday. So it was like whoop, whoop. Yeah, it was crazy. It's what happens. um, but yeah, with Adam, I thought Adam was really funny. And again, like he was unknown. It was his first movie, like where he had to be the star, and we that's just was the goal. Is I had to work with him and be like, who's Adam's fans, and be like, what? Yeah, just be like his biggest fan. And that's kind of my whole way of work. Like these guys were unknowns when I got to work with them. Really, it was Adam's first movie. It was Chris's first movie. It was Dave Chappelle's first movie. So when I met like Dave Chappelle and Neil Brennan, they were 23 years old. They were babies. Dave maybe was in one Eddie Murphy movie or something, like he was. But even then, if you met Dave Chappelle, you would say he's the funniest guy you ever met. Like at 23, he was the funniest person I ever like. Adam was the funniest. Chris, like that was just like you just could tell. It's like if somebody sings in front of you, you're like, oh yeah, whatever. I met Olivia Rodrigo at 14. She sang. I was like, that's the best voice I've ever heard. I want her on the TV show. You're like, who? It doesn't matter. It's like that, to find young, unexposed talent and to be able to work with that is amazing. I mean, it's also amazing and so great to work with like big, huge talent. Like, of course, to get an opportunity to do that. But here's the thing: I don't get those opportunities all the time. Whatever. That's like the thing that you get as being a girl, whatever. And not like I didn't have those opportunities. So you have to find your opportunities. I had to find that. It wasn't like Adam Sandler's the biggest star. He wants you, Tammy, Dramra, young girl, to make your thing or whatever. And that's the thing with why I feel like the voice of that person, like we shouldn't be judged by who we are. We should get those opportunities, and things really change. I'm so happy things are changing. But at that time, it wasn't like, oh, I chose those as much as that was what I got. Those were my opportunities, and I made the best of my opportunities. And it's like, oh, I could pick what songs I like. Like I wasn't getting the Rolling Stones and Madonna videos, but I would get bands that nobody had ever heard of, and I could pick those videos, even though I'd only, so that would be what I could do. And if I listened to a song by an unknown artist and I loved it, yeah, I did Bought by Hanson. Nobody heard that. Nobody knew that. Like those little kids. Yeah, I did Indigo Girls, Closer to Fine. Nobody had ever. Those were videos that people submitted to me as songs by unknown artists. And then that's what I got to do, is at least I had a choice of which unknown person I could work with. That's what, and then that's what you get to do. It's like, yeah, if you're a music producer or whatever, it's like then you at least you get to choose the best unknown person you've ever heard of.
Yeah, that's a great point, because for example, if you say I worked with Dave Chappelle, people are gonna look at Dave Chappelle where he's at now, the greatest, possibly the greatest comedian ever. But like you say, you worked with him on his first film, so a lot of people got to go back and watch it, and they love it. but you know, like you said, you made the most out of it with what you got, and
Yeah, like I met him then and I was like, he's so funny. Like we would hang out and I would just be on like a puddle on the ground, my stomach hurting, like in pain of how hard he would make you laugh. And you just would do anything to try to capture that and put that on film and try to get a film out of that guy to put that on camera. All you have to do is just be ready. It's like an action sport. So get the cameras up, be ready, be in a good mood, make sure you're organized, get everything, get this, make sure the studio's happy too, so that he could work again. Keep it on time. Yeah. So yeah,
yeah,
that's what I
yeah.
think it would do. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. So yeah, we about 30 minutes in. I really appreciate you taking time to stop by. This has been a
Thank you.
phenomenal interview. I really
Thank
appreciate the
you.
work that you have done. And like you say, you did over 150 videos. I gotta go back and check some more of them out. I really I want to ask you this last question if it's okay. Are you working on any projects now, or do you have any projects coming out soon that the viewers can, look forward to?
I do. I had a film come out in Paramount Plus on boy bands, which was really fun. So that Larger Than Life that came out in November, and then I'm attached to stuff, and I have my book coming out. But yeah, until it's like all like signed and ready to go, it's all just right now. Hollywood's in a weird place, so I just do things on my own right now. I'm writing. I'm working on another documentary, but yeah, waiting to see when those things land and then to be ready. It's kind of like you just got to be ready when it's time for you to go down the slide.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So thank you so much again. And I want
Yeah.
to thank the viewers for tuning in as well. It's been a phenomenal episode. So until next time.
Thank you so much. See you
Mhm.
later. Bye.